I've been saying since these strikes started, for the writer strike and now the actor strike that's going on, that it's ultimately going to be beneficial to us as an audience. But now we're learning that it's actually beneficial for the studios as well. Warner Brothers Discovery says strike saved it more than $100 million in Q2. David Zaslav hopes negotiations resume soon. So a lot of people are kind of wondering, like, well, how are they saving money if they're not producing anything? Well, I'll get to that, but it seems like the only people that are actually losing out on this are the actors and writers on strike, but they can turn the tables on this without having to buckle to the studios, but more on that in a minute. So jumping down into this article from Variety, Warner Brothers Discovery execs reported the Hollywood writers and actors' ongoing work stoppage had brought the company savings in the low 100 million range during the Q2 earnings results call Thursday. So yeah, a lot of it is just the fact that they're not wasting money producing stuff, so it's gonna save money. But I mean, they're also not making as much, but so it's not quite the same thing. But if you think about it, I mean, especially Warner Brothers here, I mean, they've had a list of flops this last year. I mean, most notably The Flash, which has lost them nearly 100 million, or not 100, like probably nearly $300 million at the global box office, and it costs around $300 million to make. You never know. I mean, 2020 vision, or 2020 hindsight. I mean, if they would have produced it and it made over $1 billion, well, then that's a good thing. But you can't necessarily bank on that. And I think that's the whole result of this is they want to continue working on these, because even though they're saving a lot of money by not producing stuff like this, they're still not making their potential. Anyway, jumping back into the article, the interesting thing about this is going down into the very bottom of it. The content licensing we have one of the best TV and motion picture libraries in the world. Yeah, that's true. David Zaslav said, if you look at the overall economics, I think we're actually below the last couple of years in terms of what we're selling. In other words, the stuff that we've been making has actually been doing pretty bad right now, but we have a huge library of stuff that people do like to watch. If the strikes continue, there may be more demand. We're always looking to maximize. We're hoping the strikes get settled as soon as possible. And yeah, he basically goes on to say, like, yeah, it's important to do this. We love doing this kind of stuff, so we want to produce more things. So like I said, CEO talk, but it is really interesting, the fact that it's like, if these strikes go on, we still have a huge library. So basically trying to tell people, it's like, we can continue to make money, even if we're saving a lot of money now, and then we can continue making money by licensing our things. I mean, especially like Warner Brothers Discovery, they have their streaming service. Disney has the Disney Plus platform. So these studios can still do this sort of thing. They can make money through streaming and other licensing agreements. And if they really wanted to, they can release them into theaters too, and have theatrical runs of their back catalog. So overall, they're not in a bad situation right now. They're not going to reach their potential, but they're not going to be hurting, as opposed to the people on strike who require that paycheck. Well, they're going to be the ones hurting from this, because they're not getting any work right now, and they're not making any money, and they can't bank off their back catalog. And apparently, according to them, the residuals are so low, it's not livable. So yeah, they're going to be the ones who have to negotiate. That is, unless they start working in independent productions. And this is what I've said from the get-go, that I think these strikes could see a rise in independent productions, and why I think that is good, I'll just get into in a moment. But yeah, basically, according to the terms of the unions, as long as these independent studios are completely separate from the ones that they're actually negotiating with, then they can work with them, so long as they abide by the terms that that SAG and WGA proposed during their last negotiations with the studios. So far, that doesn't sound like such a bad idea right now, at least not in my opinion. I mean, you got the people like the actors and writers, they can still work. The studios can make money by licensing and things. So overall, if nothing was ever agreed to right now, I think the writers and the actors would be the ones winning out, because the studios, while they do have their extensive back catalogs, that's not going to be a permanent solution. And you can almost see these independent studios basically rising up above them, because they're the ones producing new content. That's why I don't think it's going to happen, and why I do think the studios will negotiate. But right now, they have all the cards in their hand, because more or less, this is kind of David Zaslav's way of saying that, like, we can wait longer than you can. And he is absolutely right on this. I think what's ultimately going to happen is the writers and actors are going to be the ones to kind of, I want to say buckle, but they're going to be the ones who have to kind of cave a little bit more. I think the studios will give them something just so they can save face or whatever, but the studios are going to be the ones who win out on this. And that's just how it happens. It's bigger. Unless the actors and writers stuck to their guns and said, we're just going to work on independent stuff from now on. Now they're going to be making less money individually because the independent studios are smaller games. So they're not going to be making as much on those projects. But I think this is beneficial for us as an audience member, because I prefer having independent ones that are like, they have more passion behind them, as opposed to basically the 100 million, 200, 300 million dollar big blockbusters from studios that are more or less soulless projects that are just intended to try to appeal to a mass audience. Because when you do the independent circuit and you have the low budget ones, it tends to be more passion projects for people. And like, while they might not appeal to everyone, it's kind of a love it or hate it thing. You'll probably hate more of them than you love, but the ones you love are like, you really love them, as opposed to like a lot of the stuff that you see coming out of studios is just like, you like it, and that's about it. So I think this is going to be beneficial, but like I said, ultimately I do think this unions are going to be the ones who cave, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're just going to see it kind of probably in a few months time frame. They're going to reach a deal, and then it's going to be how it used to be instead of progressing the way it could be. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section. And if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.